Hey, how's it going, YouTube? It's Ian with Good Form Sports Cards, and today I'm going to be talking about a couple of SGC submissions. Now, this is my first time using SGC, so I'm excited to give this a try. Um, what we'll be talking about today is basically going over the cards I'm sending to them, what I'm initially expecting, and why I chose to use them. So first of all, we'll start off and just go through the cards here quickly. On the top here, we've got 5 thick ones. This is a Harmon Killebrew gold patch card. It's got like an all-star patch in there. It's a thick card. Brendan Ingram select swatches or select jersey here, or excuse me, prism jersey. Then we got 2 of these WWE film cards. This is a shorter print of the Macho Man. The green version, I think, is numbered to 99. And then this is the Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair. So if I could get some light, there's a little bit, so I'll get some light from the window there. The masking tape I have in here, the painter's tape, what I do is I put a little strip down the back and kind of fold it over, and then make it to where the grader can just pinch onto that folded over tab and just slide the card out. It's a little tougher to get the cards on the top loader, so try to make things easier for them so they're not having to like bang it and try to slide the card out and potentially mess it up. Honestly, I really try to make it as easy as I can for the grader. I hate going through stacks of cards to find like 20 that I want to send in for grading, so I can't imagine what it's like every single day, like looking under similar equipment to what I use in regards to like a microscope, or I guess I wouldn't call it a microscope, but we'll call it like a digital scope, sometimes a jeweler's loupe, magnifying glass, and you're literally looking over cards and understanding the tendencies of certain sets, and you're looking to see if those roller marks are there, the chipping on the particular edges are there. And I mean, you have to really love cards to do it. I like the process, but in like an abbreviated version, I can't imagine doing it day in and day out. So knowing what they're up against, and I have a lot of respect for it, because I couldn't do what I do without them helping in the process. I really try to make it my submissions as easy as possible for them to deal with. So I want them to have a good attitude, and I have the realist in me knows that um the realist in me knows that the person grading the cards likely isn't the person in shipping, receiving, and in research and all those sort of things. So it's not like the same person is opening the box, taking it out of the sleeve, doing all this stuff. Like, I understand that by doing this, I'm probably not like influencing the grade, but I want to be like a good partner to the whole team, I guess. I assume maybe they have lunches together and all that stuff, and like, just like anybody else, there's probably tough customers, or they're probably like, well, I got a huge order from these guys again today, and there's like super customers and stuff, and I'd want to be that person that's just like kind of like the dude at the gas station that just comes in every day and gets his soda and pack of smokes, and it's just everybody knows what he's about, and if he has any problems, and that sort of relationship is what I'm looking for. So anyway, those are the 4 cards I sent, and why they're in the top loaders like this, obviously, or maybe not obviously, is because they're thicker cards. And that was the first reason I chose to go to SGC with those. Is a lot of people, depending on the level of experience that any of you may have in the hobby, you know that PSA is much harder on thick cards. A lot of people prefer not to send them there. A lot of people will choose Beckett, some choose SGC, some choose CGC. And I just haven't had a lot of luck. I've had like a couple of thick cards that I really thought were going to be gems, and like, I'm not one of those people that just throws everything in a box and wishes. I'm very, very strict. There's a lot of stuff where like I've watched people that grade that are like, if it's close, just send it, you might get a 10. And I've seen some of those 10s where there's obviously a pretty soft corner or some pretty bad centering. Would I have sent that card? No. But did that person get lucky that sent it and get a nice reward? Yeah, they did. But I was really, really strict with a couple of these thicker cards, and then they'll come back like a 9. And anybody that knows those cards knows 9 is a pretty strong grade, but in all, people really want the 10. And to really get the sale it deserves, I mean, the card needs that 10 on it, and that's the main reason I'm using SGC. I'm going to see how they really do against the thicker cards. They seem pretty fair. on the videos that I've seen, other grading reveals from other YouTube channels. Their turnaround time is quick, and then I guess the part I also like is the 9.5 grade. So in those circumstances where I thought I'd get a 10, let's just say I'm biased to my own stuff, and they deserve really close to a 10, but they're just not a 10. Well, here at SGC, I could get a 9.5, which in theory, or from what I've seen, they sell for a little bit more than a PSA 9. So there's that little groove where I'm hoping to catch to drive these cards into the most valuable position possible. Now, as I'm going through these, some of these are going to be mine, and some of these are from collections that I've either acquired or that I'm selling on consignment. I'll go through that a little bit in detail and throughout other videos, as you'll see some of these cards blended in. The cards I'm selling on consignment is pretty straightforward. I worked a deal out with a person that I'm a coworker with, who wants to sell a collection for somebody that he knows. He's kind of helping pair them up with me, and it's just a deal where I do all the work, subtract cost out of the sale, and there's a split between us at the end. So I do those sort of deals. If anybody watching this is interested, feel free to reach out to me. We can work something out. I also do acquire collections just outright if you don't want to wait for the sale process. I mean, me selling on consignment, especially if it's a big collection, it may take me 6 months to even a year to like get through everything. It takes a long time, depending on the size of it. If you really want the most money out of it, which most people on consignment do, they really want that big return. And there's other people that are like, I don't care if you make a little more money, I just want a chunk of money now and I want it out of my house and I want to be done with it. And I work with both of those. So anybody potentially that may be looking to sell a collection, I know somebody who is, wants to get us in touch, please do. I'm always looking, and it gives us more stuff to send off to grading and do these sort of videos. So back to what I'm sending to SGC and why. Next here is a little kind of pile of vintage I had stored up. Now, I was going to send a lot of this to PSA initially, but they have such weird tiers, especially with their specials. They'll have, 1990 to present bulk for $17.99 was January. And then the bulk vintage is 1979 and prior. So what do you do with the cards from 1980 to 1989? Do you create like another bulk list or bulk shipment, or what do you do with it? Or do you just eat it and pay $24 a card? That's kind of where I was at here. I had a lot of those cards in the middle ground where, like, the nice part about SGC was it's just like, it's $15 a card, doesn't matter. Just send it in. So a lot of these stragglers I was kind of sitting on, trying to build up a little bit of a stack for a bulk order. I can finally move off of them, get them graded, and do something with it. So here's some Don Maynard rookies I had picked up. I'm not sure if I'll make any money off of these. I had picked them up during the card boom when I was collecting Hall of Fame Jets cards. And I have a Maynard, I believe, graded in a 7 now. These likely won't grade a 7, so I'm just going to grade the raw copies and move off of them. I'm hoping they look like about anywhere from like a 3 to a 4. Yeah, this George Gervin. This was like a card when I was completing an order. I think it was on Beckett.com like years ago. I needed a $50 purchase from that particular store to get like 20% off during a sale. And so I threw this George Gervin in there. Looked like a good buy. It was like a couple bucks. Bumped me up into the tier where I got the discount. So it ultimately was pretty much free. It was like, you're either going to pay full price for this $48 worth of cards, or you're going to get like 20% off and free shipping. So this card really actually was pretty much free, and then made maybe some other, significant discounts and savings on the order. Kind of in line with the other card. Here's a Joe Namath. I think it's a 1970 Topps playing card game that it's in pretty good shape. I don't know that it'll grade awesome. The centering's not perfect. It's pretty clean, but maybe like a 6. I mean, vintage is pretty tough. Here's a Joe Klecko rookie card. This one's in pretty good shape. These cards, they look good from afar, but you see how the border around here a lot of times this picture here will be like cockeyed. So it's like, it's not like if it's centered here, it'll be centered here. You really got to look at these and kind of measure them out with one of those centering tools. I feel like the 1978 tops and the 1981 tops football are like notorious for the crooked picture. It's really annoying. This one was like one of the more centered copies I could get. You can see top to bottom, it's not great. But left to right, it's pretty good. And then when you zoom in, like they look sharp. Even on like eBay pictures, if you zoom in, they look good. But when you look at them like 15x under, you'll see like a lot of paper loss, and it sticks out bad because these are white borders, but the cardboard is like cardboard colored. It's brown or green in this case. So you can see any little chip or any little paper loss at all. So even if the corner's really sharp, if just like a little piece of the white flecked off of there, it looks terrible under magnification. That was kind of the case with this one. I thought like initially it looked like it could maybe have a shot at like an 8 or 9. It was really, really strong. Under magnification, it's not great. I think it's probably going to get about a 7, maybe an 8. We'll see. And then this came from a collection I bought. Guy was a big Twins collector. I live in Minnesota, so you see a lot of that here. This is just something I want to just get it slabbed. It's a low value card. Bob Allison was he's pretty well known here in Minnesota for back in the 60s, but you know, does it hold a lot of value anywhere else? Probably not. I'll find somebody locally that, you know, if I need another, you know, $20, $25 to get a deal done, they'll want that. Same with Rod Carew. He's actually going to be here signing in a week or two. 1977 tops, low value card. I really just want to get it graded. I tried to grade if it'll add some value. This card, you know, raw is probably a few dollars. Graded in we'll just say a 6 or 7, it might be $20. So at the end of the day, I might be adding a couple dollars in value to it, which is fine by me. It's more it's more of like just making the card easier to sell. I could have this sit raw forever, and then it'll go to somebody that is what I would call tire kicker. They want to buy a raw card, look at it and go, this ain't what I want. I'm going to force a return. Whether you do one or not, they find a reason. And any of you that have experience selling on eBay knows that if someone wants to return something, they're going to return something. Like, it's going to get forced on you. So I like to sell graded cards on eBay for that reason. And that's what we're doing here. So this is one from the consignment collection. This was in an old screw down holder. It's an old Gaudi card. Raw, it sells for about $100. In a 1 to 2 grade, it's, you know, I've seen them go up to like 140, 150. So I'm really just looking to get it authenticated and that sort of thing, so I don't have any back and forth and anything goofy going on. This again was from a collection I acquired. Low grade Ernie Banks, probably again a 3 or 4 grade, but just to get it slabbed up, and there'll be somebody that's a collector that'll want it. This Jordan here, this one came out of the consignment I'm working on. It's a pretty clean 88 Fleer. The only thing that's wrong, and I'll see if I can catch it zooming in, you need to be under magnification, but if you really get in here, on that top edge, yeah, it's not going to focus on it, but right here on this top edge, if you really zoom in, there's just a tiniest little, like you can see the next card's like shifted over, like it's miscut by like a millimeter. And under magnification, it's very obvious. So I'm not sure what they'll grade with that. They might just say miscut. I might get dinged a number grade for having it that way. Otherwise, it's really clean. Good edges, good corners. Surface is nice and clean. There's not a lot of chipping. It's a weird cut on the top. So I would have pre-graded it like an 8 or a 9. I kind of have a question mark on my pre-grade. I don't know what they'll do with that miscut, but this is also from the collection I acquired as a Griffey, just raw, sitting in a box with a sleeve. It's really centered. It's really clean. The chipping, there's none, no weighting on the corners. I have this pre-graded as a 9 only because the pop count on the 10, like it's such a low percent. I mean, I think it's like under 5% gem. So that's just why I'm expecting a 9. Like if I get a 10, it's a freaking gift, but we'll take a 9 on that one. Well, geez, I guess that's up next. Here's the Griffey's card. This is something also looked really clean, but I'm going to send it to SGC mainly because it fits in that weird area of it's 91. I probably could have snuck it in the New Year's bulk special. But at $18 for that card, and if it comes back like an 8 or a 9, it's like unsellable. Like I'm in the red for sure. If it comes back like an 8, an SGC holder, getting $15 is not like unreasonable. Like it's something that could happen. So that was more of like trying to get the price point right. So these Donruss Elites here, these are from my personal collection, I guess you'd say. I'm a big collector of the Donruss Elites. You'll see as we go forward, I'm always buying them raw, always grading them. I have a set with CCG. I also have a set with PSA, and I'm always looking to like bump the cards up in each version of the set. So I try to move into 9s where I have 8s, 9.5s or 10s where I have 9s. And I'm kind of reached a point where that's very hard to do. You almost have to just buy a 10 outright. If you look at the PSA pop count for 10s on these, even though they were serial number to 10,000, the pop counts are like 6 or lower for every card. So like a 9 is really the peak that most collectors are going to get. There's a guy on the set registry, the number 1 guy, that has like mostly 10s, and I think the Sandberg only has like 1 or 2, and he's got 1. So like if if you're trying to get a set of all 10s, it's very unrealistic. 9s with like a 10 sprinkled in there is doable, and that's really what I'm shooting for. Right now my set for PSA is all 9s and 8s, and with CCG, it's all basically 9s and 9.5s that I submitted raw. I built that set completely myself. Over the years, I'll buy these raw, send them in bulk, and whatever copies I don't want, I either just find another collector or sell them or whatever. They actually sell pretty well. There's a lot of people like me that just are nostalgic about them, but you also don't have like a huge audience for them, so you need the right person that wants to pay, and a lot of times people just don't. They want them cheap, so you just gotta leave them out there for buy it now, and the right person that wants that card will come along. But the reason I'm sending these to SGC, I've never used SGC before. This is my very first submission, and here I've got a run of a lot of the elites. There's a few duplicates in here, but we're missing the Henderson, and I think let's see, there's Canseco and Dawson. So otherwise, I think we've got pretty much everyone else in here. And why I'm doing this is more of an experiment. So you can see these PSA labels here. I cracked those out. All those cards came back as 6s from PSA. And the funny part is I bought them raw with, I wanted to get 8s or better. They all had 8.5s or 9s with CCG. Or at the time, CSG. So when they change their holder, I asked myself, do I want to send this into CCG and pay $5 a card to have essentially the label change, or do I just crack them out myself, send them to PSA, hopefully add some value, and then do what I want to do from there? So that's what I did. I sent them to PSA, and they went from 8.5s and 9s to 6s. And that's a video I recorded before I even had this channel. Maybe someday I'll post it just for comedic purposes, but these cards are definitely not 6s. I cracked them out, looked at them again, and I'm like, did these get pinched when I cracked them out? Is there something with the surface that's goofy? I looked under every corner again with a jeweler's loop. There's just not enough chipping or paper loss on any of them to justify the grade. There was one where the edge had a little bit of like a line, like it looked like maybe I was cracking it and it kind of wiggled off to the side, and the holder maybe lightly pinched it like that, and then it smacked the camera stand just like that too. But so there was one that was a crack out that I didn't send. I'm just gonna have to sell it raw and disclose that, hey, this has a surface issue on it. But these I fully expect to get 8s, maybe 8.5s, maybe even 9s. So this is more of an experiment. I'm just gonna send them because I can't sell them in a 6, but if I get them in an 8, I can sell them, especially if I have like a partial set. There might be somebody that just wants to buy a semi-completed set. We'll keep this moving here so this doesn't get too long. We got a Vince Carter Topps rookie. This one has some whitening in the corners. It's been in like a box that I wanted to grade for a while. I just didn't really have the justification to do so. It's not a really high-end card, especially in an 8 or 9. So I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to sneak it in with this submission here, kind of spread out the expense and the combined shipping with all these other cards. So it's per cost or its total cost per card is driven down a little bit. So I'm hoping that's what I'm going to do with this card here. This second year Ant-Man Contenders Bronze Parallel. Same thing, it's just been in a box for a while. It had just one corner that's like a little white, like it could get a 10, but this one I think will get a 9.5. So that's why I'm throwing it in this submission. And you'll see there's kind of these cards that are in that low range, or if they get 9.5s or 10s, you might get like 30 bucks for them, but because you're only into it for 15, there's a little room to make money. When you're into it for $18 and you're hoping to get a card that comes back that's worth 30, and you've got like other costs like shipping, eBay fees, all that stuff, you're basically sending a Hail Mary out to make $2. And if you don't get that 10, you're almost certainly like 10, 50, like you're out your grading fee almost. Like it's just, you're basically screwed. And that would be the case here. We've got a red foil parallel of Andrew McCutcheon. Card's super clean. I expect it to 9.5 or gem. Trey Turner rookie. Same thing. I don't think just because it's an unlicensed card, it's not going to have a ton of value. So that's why I did this. We have an unlicensed Griffey red parallel. I think it's numbered to 499. If I can find where the serial number is, maybe it was on the front. There we go, 499. It's right above his name. Same thing. It had one corner that just like wasn't ideal, and I know if I see it, a good grader is going to see it. I expect this one to 9.5. This is a little thicker stock. This is one of those frame cards and kind of falls in the rules of the stuff I started with earlier, where I just don't believe PSA is going to give it a good grade. I'm going to get one of those wacky 6s that I don't understand. And so I'm sending this Pujols there. And we have some lower end Ginter cards. Honestly, when I looked at like, and these came from the consignment as well. And the guy had a lot of Ginter cards, and I didn't know a lot about the Ginter cards from 10 years ago. But when I looked into them, people buy these obscure cards that are thrown in there. Like, they'll be like Jesse James, Wild Bill Hickok, the Grand Canyon, weird stuff like that. People buy the rock cards all the time for like $2-3. But nobody really grades them. I saw like occasionally someone would grade one and get like a 9, and it would sell like buy it now for $29.99, and I'm like, that's really weird. But there's people that want that stuff, and there's just not a lot of supply for it. So I'm gonna take a flyer on some of these and see how I do. We got some Dickie Vitals here. We got Albert Einstein, Harriet Tubman, Wild Bill Hickok, Frederick Douglass, and the Grand Canyon. So that kind of rounds out the Ginters from the consignment that I'm working on there. And I expect those cards to get 9s or better. I looked at a lot of cards, and even though those have white edges, if you really zoom in close, you can see the stock has like a little bit of like a stippling on it. And if you get close enough, you can still see paper loss. So don't just do the eye test on the Ginters and be like, oh, these have white borders, these are easy grades. They're not the same as like white paper tops. That matte surface does seem to make a difference. So I know this got long, and I appreciate if you're still with me. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the banter there about what I chose for SGC and why. Again, a point I didn't include in, but I mentioned it here at the end, is I call it the wacky 6 or something like that. Is you'll see a lot of times if you watch various YouTube content of PSA reveals, you'll see like experienced collectors, like really good people. A channel that I watch a lot, I love his grading reveals, is Elite Co 3. He does like massive bulk orders and like has just a variety of everything in there. And this guy like knows his cards. So shout out to him. Good videos. Like he'll tell you like, oh yeah, I've graded 10 of these in my life, and they always have this chipping, and he knows like the tendencies of all this stuff, and it's wild. But he knows his stuff, and you know that when he gets like a 6, and you know he looks over these cards and he just kind of like laughs, he's like whatever, and he just says, I'm a cracker resubmit. Like he already knows it's a joke. But a lot of people that are big SGC guys are like, I don't ever get those 6s, and I can't really say in any videos I've ever seen it. So a lot of these cards I chose is their lower end, but I can't afford to have that 6. I can't afford to have that like grading fee where I eat and then resubmit, because I'm selling these on consignment. So like you need to like be profitable the first time. So that is what these were chosen for, is to hopefully take a card that like this that's $2, get it in a 9.5, maybe 9, and you sell it for $29.99, but you subtract your $15 grading fee. We'll just say combined shipping there and back is just $2 a card. So you got 17 into it. You sell it for 30. You know, your eBay fees, we'll just say on the high end are 15%. So you're going to have, you know, $4.50 in fees in there on top of the 17 you put in grading. So like you turn a $2 card into like an $8.50 to $9 card. So that's how I'm going to try to add like a little bits of value to this consignment order in conjunction with everything else that's kind of working. You hope if you do that enough times, you know, you can make yourself a little bit, you make them a little money, and you, by selling graded cards, get out of the game of what I was saying before, the tire kickers. People. And we're back. For you, it's just been a few seconds. For me, it's been a total of 18 days from when I dropped off this submission at the post office until I physically am recording this video. I'll put the official timeline up here on the screen. I dropped it off at the post office on January 24th. It arrived at SGC the 27th. Ironically, I sent in this submission with the PSA submission the exact same day from the post office. They both arrived at the same day. However, as I speak here, I'm going to be going through the grading submission with you here. The same submission that's at PSA is still in arrival status, hasn't even been checked in yet. So that goes to show you like just how much their backlog is, and then how quick SGC is. Now, it took them about, I think it was exactly 5 business days to grade it, 5 or 6. They received it on the 27th, and it shipped on the 4th. So we'll be going over here through the submission. This is my very first time using SGC, and it is also a completely blind reveal, so I haven't looked at anything yet. This is my favorite part of the hobby. Earlier in my first video, I talked a little bit about ripping packs and liking to look for certain cards, and this is like the adult version of ripping packs to me. I like to go through here and be surprised. It's not completely a surprise, but it's a little bit of like getting your big pulls, getting your fix for that, but it's a little bit more organized, and you do have some control. It's a little bit of measurement of like how good are you at what you do. So here we go. The tuxes are out in front of us here. I'm going to open these up, and we're just going to see how I did. You know, as you saw in the pre-grades, I'm not expecting a lot of 10s. These were mid-range cards that I sent off to SGC a little bit as a test, just to see how it goes. And to just take care of some cards that fit in weird spots, ones that just hadn't fit in with any PSA specials or anything like that. And I just wanted to just get them graded, get them sold, and move on. So we're going to go through the grades here together. We're going to see how SGC did, and then I'll have some final thoughts at the end, just see, you know, what I thought, if I'll use them again. I do like their packaging. It was packaged really well. So far, I will say their customer service is really good. That's something a lot of, depending on, you know, how much grading reviews you watch and how much, you know, people you've heard use them. I had sent in some cards in a different submission for the TCG special, and in that I had sent, it was basically a $12 card special, and I had included some cards that shouldn't have been in there, basically. Sorry, I'm kind of trying to read and do too many things at once, and my brain just stopped for some reason. But I had sent a bunch of cards in the $12 special, and that's my fault. I didn't read it. I just assumed TCG and non-sports were going to be just like PSAs were. I'm thinking, oh, they're sister companies, it's the same thing. But it was just TCG. So the non-sports cards should have been sent in under the $15 price tag, and with SGC, when you submit with them, you pay first. So you actually prepay, and that's part of what I'll go over at the end, but it's not necessarily a bad situation, but they did have to call me and clarify it. But the reason I bring that up is I've been grading a long time. But I've never used SGC. It's pretty much just PSA and CGC, or formerly CSG. And I've been primarily using just those two companies. Experience greater, and I've never actually had customer service physically call me, and I'm not complaining about it at all. Actually, that's my day job. Is I have shared ownership in a company that services financial institutions, and a lot of my competition just doesn't call like they could or should. And that's something that a lot of my clients like, is the fact that we will make physical phone calls in this day and age to resolve problems, or, you know, get services approved, or however you want to word it. And I just was very impressed that they called me to explain what happened, resolve the issue, and like they sent like a follow-up email that, you know, said, thank you for, you know, using us. Here's your invoice for the difference. And the experience for me was very good, and it kept things moving. It's not like they just dumped a task into some queue, hope that I'd get in there and react and get something done. I mean, they took care of it. So I was very impressed with that from the get-go. Their customer service is as described, very good. So I've got the stacks over here. We're going to start going through the cards. We got a lot to cover. Again, my strategy with them was sending cards that I did not think would grade well with PSA, or just didn't make sense paying a higher fee. So it was capitalizing on the $15 price point, and also sending thicker cards, stuff like that. So it's a good mix in here. We've got pretty much all four sports. I think there might be hockey in there if I remember right. So we're going to start off right away with Brandon Ingram. This is a Prism Rookie patch, low value card. I really just a test to see if I could add a little value to this. It's from a collection I'm selling on consignment, so I think raw the card's probably worth $2 or $3. If I could get it to be worth $5 plus what I'm into it, that would be a W. This is really kind of a test just to see what they did. I had this pre-graded, I believe, a 9. So check this out. And that's a 8 that it came back at. So not disappointed in that or anything at all. Thick patch cards are always kind of a gamble. So this right here was a Harman Killebrew. It's like a manufactured patch. It's a Topps card. To me, this card was like super clean. Under magnification, there was just like no paper loss. Usually on these thick cards on the edge, if you really zoom in, they're either pinched a little bit, or they're just kind of a little flex just kind of came off. But this was super sharp. So I expected this I had 9 to 10 and it did get a 9. Again, I'm not disappointed in that at all. This is something I really did not know what to expect. So it seems like they're pretty, I would say, fair on the patch cards. I wasn't expecting them to gem. I've been so brutally beat down over the years on the thick cards. I don't even know how to pre-grade them, to be honest with you, because I just couldn't tell you what they're doing. So really, again, and I have a lot of cards in PSA that are from this Ginter set as well. And these are the ones that I sent that had like small corner flaws that I thought would benefit from the 9.5. So I'm expecting 9.5s on these. I'm not going to say it on every single one. So I'm not expecting any 10s on the Ginter cards. We got a Dick Vitale. This is his rookie, so to speak. But Dickie V did get a 10. So actually, I'm impressed with that. I've heard that they grade a lot on eye appeal, and I'm not saying they give you a pass on things, but the corner damage, if you want to call it that, was like on the front, and you can't see it because it's white, but if you really magnify like 1520x, you can see there's like just tiny little stippling of color in the stock, and on one of the corners, I think it was down here, you can see it's a little fuzzy, and that stock is clearly visible as not being there. It does look like paper loss, so like it would stick out in a black or a brown or a gray card. That one, it does not, and it gave us benefit of the doubt, so that's cool. Here we had Andrew McCutcheon red foil, very condition sensitive. This one I was expecting a 9 or 9.5, and it got a 9.5. It wasn't perfect. Centering was real good. The surface was real good. It's just these foil edges are just really, really condition sensitive. And I think there was one spot too where there's just a little like tiny little like nick in the surface, and that foil really shows that. So Ken Griffey Jr. This one I was expecting a 9.5. It's a Panini Father's Day parallel. I think it's numbered to like $3.99 or $4.99. Reason for that is on the front. This corner on the front just had a slightest ding. It just wasn't sharp. But I thought a 9.5 might bump this up in value a little bit. And it did get a 10. So we'll see if we can get that to reflect. You can kind of see the white a little bit. It's just really hard to get that to show. But this corner up here just wasn't perfect. But they pushed the 10. I like that. So far, so good. So we got I believe this was a Topps Gallery. This is a framed card. I think in my pre-grade I had like 9 question mark because it's a little thicker because of the frame. And I thought this would get a 9 to 9.5, but I just put 9 question mark because, again, it's thicker, it's framed. I didn't know what to expect. I know PSA probably gave me like a 7. So this one looked really good. Same kind of as that Griffey. It had one corner with just the slightest paper loss, but again, on a darker stock, it shows really good, but the back is like immaculate. Look at that. For a black card on a black border, you can't see anything, so that is really clean. Oh, and another 10. So they pushed this one as well. I think it was this corner down here. I don't have it marked on my pre-grade sheet, but there's one, if you really zoom in, you can see just the slightest paper loss, but it's got a nice shine to it, really clean card. It's got a lot of edges to it, and for this to gem, that's pretty cool. Here's a Vince Carter Topps rookie. This one I had pre-graded at an 8. When I say soft corner, I mean soft by gem standards, but it had some softened corners and has like a bronze border, so it really shows. I bought this raw during the boom for like $10, and I think in a 9 it sells for like 15. So it was really about just getting it slabbed and just moving it. So I got an 8.5. Okay, that's actually pretty good. Again, you can see the centering's not perfect. It's real close, but it's a little thicker up top than the bottom, and there's some whitening, so 8.5 is fair for that. Here's another Ginter card. This is a second Dickie V. We'll see how he did. I pushed them both to a 10. Awesome. So far, what's that, 3 or 4 10s, and I wasn't expecting any, so that's really cool. We have a Trey Turner. This is a unlicensed Donruss. This is why I sent this there. This was super clean. I had it at a 9.5. It just wasn't like perfect. I remember there was like the tiniest little, like, not like a full nail mark, but just a little imprint in the back. I don't even know if I can get it to show, but there's just the littlest mark on there. And I didn't know how much they dinged me for it, but apparently nothing. But you can see the centering is just like absolutely spot on. The rest of the card's super clean, especially the front. So getting a 10 on that is not like a huge surprise, but that's one of those where it just kind of depends on the grader if they really know their cards. The same thing as the Ginters. If they really know their cards, they'll push it through. I've seen other ones that really want to be heroes on stuff like that and give you like a 6. So I don't know. I'm glad that SGC is living up to their reputation here. So we've got the Ginter Grand Canyon card here. Back's off centering, or the back is off center a little bit. So I had this one at like a 9.5. The rest of the corners are really clean, and they came back a 9.5. So I'm really happy. I think so far my pre-grades have been like spot on. So next up we see a Donruss Elite here, and I've got a couple labels off to the side here. These were crackouts. Again, another test for SGC. I had a lot of cards that I thought were undergraded at PSA as 6s. So our first one, Barry Bonds. He came back a 7. So let me actually grab his label out of the stack here. Sorry, these first couple will take a while until I find the right guys, but it's a true blind reveal. I don't have them ready. Okay, so he came back a 7. PSA had him a 6. And that's probably about right. I think I cracked it out of a CSG old label as an 8 a long time ago. So we've had 3 companies, 3 different grades, but the 7's probably about right. I'll set the elites there as they come through. I don't know if they're all together or if they're spread out. Here we have the Jose Canseco. I think there was only one. Let's see, and here he is. The Jose Canseco, you can see I have the serial number written in there with my crappy writing, 1459. Jose Canseco graded a 6 by PSA and an 8 by SGC. So that I feel is an accurate grade, and I'm very happy with that. I mean, I'm expecting most of these to get 7s or 8s, possibly higher. They were cracked out of cases that were CSG 8s and 8s, 8.5s, and 9s. So I'm expecting them to be right around 8. And when PSA gives me just a slew of 6s, I don't know what the heck they're seeing, but those cards were like really nice. So here's a George Brett. George Brett in an 8 or above is actually worth quite a bit. You could sell his PSA 7 for like $110, $120. So once you get above that, it's pretty nice. Formerly an 8+ from CSG. Then it was demoted to a 6 by PSA, and the final ruling from SGC is a 9. So we jumped up 3 grades here. Yeah, I'm very glad that this is actually working out like I thought, because I was really doubting myself when I got that submission back from PSA last year. I was just absolutely just mind blown. Frederick Douglass Ginter card. This one I was expecting a 9 or a 9.5. It had some surface issue like the other ones. Just like Dickie V got a 10. So awesome. I wasn't expecting any 10s. This is going to perhaps be the most boring reveal of all time, and it's kind of working out. Anthony Edwards, this is a really cheap Chronicles second year. I think it's a bronze parallel. Been sitting in my boxes, like good enough to grade. And when you get a deal like this to do it at a low enough price, I thought it would 9.5. It wasn't perfect, but I'm like, they may push it to a 10. Like it's in that mid range where like if you get a good like PSA grader, they'll do it. The corners weren't perfect, but it's only got the one dark corner. The other side I think only has one as well. And pushed a 10 on Ant-Man. So I like that. It probably makes it you know, I guess sellable, if you want to call it that. That's just the kind of card you just really should just never send it in, unless you're collecting Anthony Edwards. But would have loved to have had that during the playoff run last year. Probably could have sold it for like 40 or 50 bucks then. But now it will just, I don't know, we'll get our money back out of it. So we got a Ginter, Harriet Tubman, same as before. We're expecting her 9 or 9.5, but they've been very friendly to these. So we got a 10 on Harriet, so that is pretty dang cool. We're off to Matt Williams Elite. This is the serial number 9741, so I'll try to find that here. 9741. So PSA gave it a 6, and they gave it a 7. So I think it's the 4th one, and we've moved up at least 1 grade in every case. So, all right. So this is one I threw in. It's a George Gervin. I've had it for a long time. Not particularly valuable. You know, if I could move it for, 25 bucks or something, I might make a little money on it. But other than that, it's really about just kind of getting it into a different form here. So 5's probably fair. I had it at like a 5 or 6. So. Not centered very well, but it's not a particularly hard year to grade. These are, even in 8s, this card wouldn't really be that valuable. So another Ginter card. This is Wild Bill Hickok. So this was another one that had one of those impressions in the back. It's kind of hard to see in the matte surface. This is one where I'm like, if it's kind of like a Trey Turner, they'll give it a pass. If it's not, it could be a 7 or an 8. Again, this is like a test one that I threw in because the corners are super clean. The eye appeal of the front is just fine. But it is very apparent if you shine the light on the matte back, you can see it like really apparent. So I just had a 9, maybe a 9.5. So Wild Bill got the 7, and I guarantee you it is because of that impression. So it seems that maybe they didn't see the Trey Turner one, and maybe the matte back, just like I said, it really makes it pop. I'm not shocked to see a 7 there at all. That card's certainly a loss. That's not one you send in if you're not expecting to get 9 or better. Matt Williams, 51-54. This was a 6 as well. And what's going on there? Okay. Well, maybe that's part of the design. It looked like it had like a paper loss or something, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it did. No, there's something going on. Maybe at that corner at the bottom. I don't know. A 5? Okay. Well, I wasn't expecting that. And after I did crack these, I did re-examine them to make sure I didn't like pinch any of them. Because I did have one that was not on camera that I did pinch on the side. It was right over here. I had like just like a little line in the foil, very apparent. It's not going to come out. You can't do anything with it. So that card I did not send. I'm very shocked to see a 5 actually, but we got a little bit to go through here. I'm not going to stay and cry forever about it. So I was wrong on one, which I'll accept that. Let's see, Fielder. $61.58. Sorry, $61.56. Okay. Writing's crap. All right. So this one was pre-graded, or I guess it was pre-graded by PSA as a 6. So let's see here. That one got an 8, which is exactly what I would expect it to be. Came out of a case that was that way. I was pretty much expecting a cross to PSA. I could have just used their crossover service, I guess, but then you're paying $30 a card. At the end, it probably could have saved me some money. You don't expect it to lose 3 letter grades doing that, but whatever. Or 3 number grades, excuse me. So this is the Griffey's card, very iconic from the 90s. Low value. This is one I was just slabbing up. I thought it would look good in a tux. Good eye appeal. Might be able to sell it for a few bucks profit. I'm not expecting to make a ton of money on this. This was a 9 or a 9.5. And it did come back a 9. The centering was just a little off, and you can see that top corner is not really like non-square. It's got like a little fuzz on it, and down here there's a little whitening on the corner, so 9's fair. Topps Traded Griffey. Now, I've graded a ton of these, and I'm actually kind of excited for this one because this one I had as a 9.5, and I always feel like stupid putting that on there for that card because it's very, I just never grade it well with PSA. I've gotten a few 9s and a few 8s. This I got from a collection I acquired, and it was in a box of raw cards, just very unprotected. And I mean, and when I say a box, I'm not saying it was like a card box where it was lined up nice. It was like just they're plopped in a freaking box, and there's no holder on it. And for whatever reason, this copy is super centered and super clean. And I thought it had like an outside shot at a 10. But if anybody that has graded this card, and I've graded a lot of them, it's wicked hard to get a 10. I've never got one. It's always centered. It's always fat on the left. But if you look in the back, there's no chipping, virtually none. Very clean. Back is centered, and the front's very centered. All right, so I pulled a 9.5. It's the best I've ever done on this card, but I've literally bought in cheap box sets, pulled that card, and have never gotten a grade that high. And then this thing is out of some random box where the person's just completely not giving a crap about it. And it's the best I've ever done. So it just goes to show you, like, you know, people that are like, oh, you'll never get, you know, good raw cards off ComC, or you'll never get good raw cards from, you know, garage sales or whatever. Like, they're out there. You just gotta, you know, you just gotta get out there. That's all I can say. You just get to work, find the right collections and stuff. And there's gems in there. There's a good example right there. Sadly, even in a 9.5, it's probably a $50 card. But then if that had just another half grade higher, it'd be like closer to 300. So the card in a 10 is very much a premium. So so here's another thick card. This is from my personal collection. It's a Ric Flair like film strip card. Wish I could get some more light under it, but you can see it's pretty cool. Didn't know how it would grade. It was very clean. I had 9 or 9.5. I did get a 9. Oh, this actually is not the Ric Flair. This is the Macho Man. This was the green that was serial number to 99, I believe. So I think they have the serial number on there. Yeah, so that's cool. 9 is fine with that. Again, it's a little bit of a learning experience for me here too. I want to understand what they're hard on and what they'll push a little bit. And it just, so far, not to, sound a certain way, but they're very like-minded to me. I feel like I have no surprises really here other than that Matt Williams, which is probably an oversight by me. You're going to have 1 out of 40 cards or however many are here. So that really doesn't bother me. Usually it's like I'm just kind of, it's actually, to be honest with you, it's a relief going through here and being like, yep, that's what I expected. This is great. I really know my cards. I really go through the time pre-grading them, and there's a lot of cards like before I do these submissions, and I put a lot of time in. I go through a lot of cards, and I probably push a lot to the side that like other people could, in theory, gem, because they're not worth it for me to grade and have them come back potentially an 8. And so I'm almost playing defense in that matter, which you really should do anyways, but it's because I'm almost so just unsure what's going to happen when I get that PSA box back sometimes. For the most part, they do pretty good, but I've had a couple of submissions where I just got absolutely clobbered. That crossover elite one, I actually did record that. I record all my submissions. Maybe sometime I'll just show some of my old ones so we kind of laugh at some of the stuff I did. But that submission, I remember, I was just livid. Like I went from like mad to like almost like cynically laughing like the Joker. Like I didn't know what the heck to do. It was so just unbelievable what they did in that submission. It was wild. And it is very relieving to go through here. And I'm not even expecting 10s. I'm thinking like, because I'm so like diligent in my pre-grading, and any little imperfection, I'll document it. And I'm not expecting a gem if it's not a gem. And it's nice. It's nice. Like, am I getting like gold label or black label cards here? Of course not. But they are saying, hey, this is such a minor imperfection, and overall it's a great card that looks good. And pushing some of these to a 10 is really awesome. So far, I haven't had that turd, which I just so thankful for. Ginter Einstein, super clean. I had on the pre-grade 9 or 9.5. And there we go, another 10. So if they want to do a half grade above what I do, I'm going to be happy as heck. So here's another film card. This is the Ric Flair. I had a 9 or 9.5. It's another thick card. It's really hard to look at the surface of the film, so there could be scratching on there. I'm sure they have equipment and better ways to deal with these cards. So a 9 doesn't shock me, 9 or 9.5. And I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but like that holder, and you can see how thick the card is versus like this holder is a lot thinner. That's a very thick card. Okay, so this Michael Jordan, I thought could potentially get a 9. It was really clean, but those old cards are always so hard. I mean, I've sent some off early in my grading days that I thought looked really good, and I'm like, oh, this is a 10 right here, and it came back like a 6. And then like looking back, the card was definitely a 6. Like, just, it takes a while to learn the 80s and the junk wax, and I'll go over some of that in a different video as far as like, when to start grading and what to look for when you're starting, because a couple of my first submissions were just dogs. I mean, they're just turds, man. I was sending in cards I just had no business going in, and obviously I wrecked the reveal. But getting an 8 on this, I'm very pleasantly surprised. That was one where I'm like, it looks like a 9 if they don't notice that, but they're professionals. Like, I noticed it with my equipment. I'm extremely pleased with that. That card at an 8 is really nice. A card at a 7 is not so great, so that's really out of line. So this Ernie Banks was in that same loose box as that Griffey. Looked pretty good. I think I had it pre-graded at like a 4 or 5. Off-centered, soft corners, but no creases, no paper loss, nothing like that. No stains on the back, so it was a really clean, good eye peel card. 4.5, so again, happy with that. Okay, so I'm glad. So it's slabbed, which it should be. I wanted it to basically be slabbed, so I know it's at least authentic. So that's a 33 Gaudi card. That was in the collection I'm selling on consignment, and it was in an old screw-down holder. And when I took the screw-down holder off, I was like, please don't stick to the stock and like peel a big chunk of it off. Thankfully, it did not. But I didn't know like if being in the screw-down would compress it. Sometimes like the companies don't like to grade those when they're really smashed. And then other than that, it had really good color, good eye appeal, good centering. It was just, it's an old card. It just had general wear. It's soft. And I just was hoping like just graded authentic. That card authentic is like $150. Graded in even a 1 it's closer to 300. So I'm just hoping any letter grade on this would be great. Authentic, obviously it's slab, so they did authenticate it. That's good. You can see there's a little staining on the back. And it got a 1, so it's close to a $300 card. I think in the SGC holder it's like $250. So, but you can see its centering's not bad. Color's good. It's not all faded and nasty. It's actually in pretty good shape. It's a good example for a 1. It's not bad. This kind of falls in the same category as the Gervin earlier. It's a 70s card. Never, excuse me, never really found a good time to send it in. It's a Joe Namath Topps game card. And that got a 5. I didn't even put a pre-grade on there. I don't know what to give these cards. Round corners, they're clean. It's just off-centered. A little staining. I'm sure 5 is fine. I wasn't looking for anything special. So this is a Bob Allison, again, from that collection I bought with the loose Ernie Banks with the loose Griffey. This card was really clean. I had it pre-graded at like a 6 or a 7, which is generous for, I think it's a 62 Topps, but I mean, it was really clean. And it did get a 6. There's a little softness up here and the centering's a little off, but it's a really good, clean card. So Don Maynard rookie. This one, condition is not good. There's 2 of them. One had a little staining on the back, one didn't. The one with the staining, I guess, would be like a 3. Yeah, that's what it is. Again, it's good color, good eye appeal. It's got a little general wear. Rod Crew, this is 77 Topps. I had this one pre-graded at a 5. It's got a white border, white edges, a lot of chipping. Not evident from like how we're looking at it, but under magnification, it's just not good. It got a 4. That doesn't shock me. I'm not really that great at vintage, so if my pre-grading's off by 1 on vintage, I don't really care. So here's the Don Maynard, same as before. This one doesn't have the staining in the back. I guess this would be about a 4, 4.5. That one did have a 4. Same issue, same centering issues. You'll see even like the 9s in that card are like super sharp, but they have the same centering problem. We have another fielder. This is the one in serial number 1265. So here's our last Cecil. Good old PSA pre-graded error 6. And we've got a 9. All right. So yeah, another 3-grade jump here. Obviously this card in a 6, you could maybe sell it all in for $50. When I say all in, that's shipping included. As a 9, you might be getting close to a couple $100 cards. So that's where like that you getting jerked around, getting those random 6s really screws you. And if it's a card like that, you're okay sending it back in. But if it's a card, maybe like that Trey Turner from before, there's just not enough margin there. Even if it comes back a 10, you've got so much sucked into the grading already that it's an L. So it really sucks when you get those 6s on cards when you really need them to get it right the first time. You really need it. It's unfortunate that this happens because, I mean, other than the Matt Williams, every single one of these is bumped up a letter grade or more. We got Doug Drabeck, serial number 1189. That must be it. My rating's just terrible. Okay. Once again, pre-graded a 6. SGC gave her a 9. So same as before. This card in a 6 is maybe $30. In a 9, again, close to a $200 card. It's really unfortunate, but I'm glad that I'm glad this worked out like I thought. I'm glad they got it right. The last Drayback here, pre-graded as 6, got a 8.5. So yeah, they're absolutely in line with what CSG then / CCG now graded them. I wish I had just saved myself the $18 a card or whatever it was and just sent them straight here and got it crossed over. But yeah, wow. We're not going to waste any more time. I already wasted enough time ranting and raving. So here's my last card of the submission, and the last vintage card from the 70s that fit in that weird slot. I just never got around to grading. It's a Joe Klecko rookie. I was at one time buying raw copies, trying to, I trusted my own abilities, and I was thinking, okay, if I really look at these raw cards online, I'll get a good one. I'll send it in and get a 9. And I was trying to get his rookie in a 9. I was assembling a graded copy of the New York Sack Exchange. I wanted a rookie for each one, and Klecko is the most expensive. He's the Hall of Famer. And getting his card in a 9 then, when the card prices were up, and he was just going into Hall of Fame, was about $500-$600. And I'm thinking, I could source a raw copy for like 20, grade it, and not pay that. Well, after I bought like 5 raw copies that looked really good online, you get them home and you look at them, and there's just so much chipping on the front. I'll show you when I flip this over, but there's just white, and it's like, it looks great online, but when you get in close, you can see it's got this darker cardboard stock here. So it's like the newer cards have that like white paper. The paper here is like brown, so when that white edge flicks away, it looks really bad. And after trying to do that a few times, I just said, you know what, I'm not going to trial and error this many raw copies of this card only to try to sell those raw copies back to make my money and play games to do this. But this is the one I thought would get about an 8 or an 8.5. It was the best I could do out of the cards I had. I figured that's about the only one I could grade and add value to. So I think I got the raw copy here for about $20. This card in an 8. If you're patient, you can get about 75 if you just put out there for buy it now. So, I probably maybe will put out $69.99 and try to move it. But assuming I get an 8 or better, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. I did get an 8. These are just really hard to grade. They have these white edges. You have centering to deal with, and then the picture is often tilted too. So you'll look, and you got to be careful, because if it looks centered up here, you can't just assume it's centered below. Sometimes it's like jagged in there, and it's weird. But this one got a nice 8. I'm happy with that. And overall happy with the submission. Do a quick recap of a few of these. I'm not going to go through everything. The video's been very long with the pre-grades in there. But as I'm going, yeah, I'll pull these 2 out. I'm kind of happy with these. But curious to know your guys' thoughts going through here. Have you had any experience of, what I refer to as the random 6s with PSA? And I'm certainly, I'm not going to just stop using PSA, but after using SGC here, I'm very pleased. Their service was very fast. I mean, it was about 4.5 business days until it was shipped. Most of the time for me in the 18 calendar days from it being shipped from me until picking it up, most of the time was transit there and back. Really, the shipment back took forever. I'm not sure why. It kept changing on my side. Like, it would say it's coming Friday, then it would say it's coming Saturday, and then I would it eventually came like Saturday night. But what good does that do me when it's at my P.O. box? So the P.O. box that I buy the way is not big enough to hold this, so I have to bring the ticket to the counter and go through that whole process. But I will say that they are everything as advertised. The grades I thought were very fair, if not like a half grade above my expectation, which I'll always take that. Their customer service was very good. They get everything through the system very quick. I haven't seen any errors on the labels, but I wasn't really looking closely. It's a blind reveal. So from a PC standpoint, I'm not in love with the tuxedo look. It's not bad. It's just not for me. Uh, but there are some cards it looks very good on. So I'll be honest. I don't believe I'm going to be putting my PC cards in there, but I will use them again. I might do some more crosses. I have some more elites from the same submission here. I'm going to say probably like 10 or 15 that were all sevens that I felt were, again, eights or better. So I'm seeing all eights here for the most part. And I may take advantage of trying to move those cards into better holders to get them sold. I ended up getting a stack of 10s when I expected none, and it looks like I got 9 out of 38 10s. So, I mean, wow, best I've ever done on one of these. I'm just happy to have that one. And then even this I thought was very fair. It's a complicated card to grade on a player where if you do something like if you overgrade it or undergrade it, you're gonna get question just because it's such a good, it's possibly the best player to grade. So I just overall feel they did a very, very good job. I'm very impressed. That's really my thoughts. It's really hard to say much more, but when your price point is good, your turn time is good, and you can trust the grading. Like I feel very like secure sending them another submission, knowing that like if I send this off and I have it, graded a 9 or 9.5, it's not really coming back below a 9. They might push it to a 10 a few times, but like again, like I said, I'm an experienced grader. I've been doing this a long time. I've been thousands of cards, and I'm not someone that is like gonna bore you. I will bore you with some videos, but I'm not gonna bore you on here when I get a 7 and go, oh, what happened here? And I'm like flicking it around in the light, and you can see all kinds of imperfections. Like if I expect a 7, or if I get a 7, I usually deserve it, and I usually am aware of it. Very seldom do I just send cards in. I put as much time into like prepping my cards. I almost look at it like a lot of people are thinking, oh, if I put X amount of time into these cards and I make this much money, my dollars per hour, maybe I make $20 an hour doing this or something. And I look at it a little differently. I look at it of like, if I can stop 3 cards from going to get graded that I'm going to end up losing money on, and I could just sell them around now versus paying for this and then having to have it come back and make a decision. Do I crack it out? Do I resubmit it, or do I sell this in a 6 or a 7 and get maybe what I would get for the cost of the raw card? And essentially that, dollars per hour you think you're making, a lot of times you're bleeding it out, sending in cards, just have no business grading. So I like to have as good of a defense as I do an offense when it comes to grading. I put a lot of time into examining cards, preparing them. Obviously, I'm not, well, maybe not obviously, but I'm not sponsored by any of the people I mentioned, but I'll put a little web link up here. I use Edge Grading. It's a website, if I pronounce that right, but you basically can either, I use a scan of my card because it's more square, but you can put your card image, upload your card image, and it will measure the centering, and there's like sliders too, so if like the AI doesn't pick up on the right things that you want to measure, you can move the lines, and it will tell you basically based on the lines you put top to bottom. It's 52-48 left to right, so like you can get your centering, and it'll give you like an edge rating. I still recommend that you check it yourself, but it will say, hey, your edges look good, and then it'll tell you based on your percentages if your card is gem mint or 9 for PSA and 10 for CCG or whoever it might be. So it will tell you based on what you're giving it where it's going to be your most favorable place to send it, and does it meet the gem mint requirements for these companies. If it doesn't, you can stop right there. You don't got to check the surface. You don't got to do nothing. If that centering isn't on where it needs to be and you're already at a 9, you don't even got to get out the jeweler's loop and do any of that stuff. So I'd highly recommend using it. A lot of times, you can do eyeball centering, and that's great, but I like to have the more exact, because I've seen a lot of people that are like, this is in PSA's tolerance, and I'm watching the video going, that ain't no that ain't no 5545, man. That thing is jacked. So anyways, that's my experience with SGC. Very pleased, very happy. Let me know your thoughts about the submission here. What did you like? Did you enjoy it? What car did you enjoy? Have you had any kind of experiences like this where they bumped your letter grades up or anything like that? Just curious to know what everyone else thinks of SGC and their experience, or if they haven't tried them, perhaps will they after seeing this. But other than that, that's really all I got. That's the reveal. These are the cards. When that PSA one comes in a little bit, I'll do a video on that too, and we'll see how they did. But until next time, we'll see ya.